All right, happy Friday morning. After we watch this video here, make sure to take your mini quiz. That's your attendance for the week. If you haven't taken any of the other mini quizzes yet, make sure you do that. I'll be putting those grades in later today. Now, we're going to review finding areas and volumes here. So to find the area of a square, remember we take our length times our width. But what do I know about the sides of a square? Well, they're all the same. So length times width just ends up being side length squared. So we square its side length. So 7 squared is our area here, which is 49. So why don't you find your area of this next square? Well, again, these side lengths are the same, so that area is 13 squared, or 13 times 13. Length times width equals 169. Now, to find the areas, we were squaring the side length. So we're taking that side length and squaring it. But if I'm given the area, so area equals side squared. Now, if 121 equals side squared, then how do I solve for the side length? What's the opposite of squaring a number? Well, the opposite of squaring is square rooting. So we'll just square root here, and our side lengths are 11. Now, why don't you guys pause the video and solve for this next one here? You will get a pretty big decimal, but use your calculators. Now again, if 15 equals side squared, well, what's the opposite of squaring a number? How do I get rid of a square? Well, we square root. Square root of 15 is 3.8729 or 873. So we'll just round to 3.87. All right, now area of a circle, if you remember, that's pi times r squared. So you're given the radius. I want you to find the area. And this is radius. So where do I substitute the radius in? Where do I put that radius length in my pi r squared equation? Well, I'll just substitute that in for r. So area equals pi times 5 squared. So area is, 25 pi, or approximately 78.54 inches squared. So why don't you guys pause the video and find your radius for number, or not your radius, I'm sorry, your area for number 3. So area equals pi times r squared. Now, what am I going to do with this radius length? Where would I plug in that radius? Well, I can substitute the radius in for r. So pi times 2 squared. So that area is 4 pi, which is approximately 12.57 centimeters squared. Now again, our area is still pi r squared, right? Still pi r squared. But now I'm giving you the area. So 100 is not the radius, 100 is the area. And where am I going to substitute that area in this formula? Where am I going to put the area of 100 in that formula? Well, I'm going to end up putting the area in where the area goes. So 100 equals pi times r squared. And now I want to solve for r. So how do I get that r squared by itself? What do I have to get rid of? I've got to get rid of pi. So to get rid of multiplying by pi, we divide by pi. So 100 over pi is 31.831 approximately, equals r squared. And now how are we going to get rid of that squared? What's the opposite of squaring a number? Well, that's just square rooting. So we can find our square root, and r is approximately 5.64 feet. So the first thing we did here is we divided by pi, and then we took our square root. So why don't you guys find your radius given this area here in number 3. Pause the video and find your radius. All right, so area equals 16 feet. Area equals pi r squared. So where am I going to put this 16? Well, what is that 16? It's the area. So where do I put the area in my area formula? I'll put it here where the area goes. So 16 equals pi r squared. And now I want to get that r squared by itself. I want to solve for r. So how do I do that? How do I get that r by itself? Well, I've got to get rid of pi. And what's the opposite of multiplying by pi? It's dividing by pi. So 16 divided by pi is approximately 5.09. And now I've got r squared, but I just want r. So what's the opposite of squaring a number? How do I get r by itself? Well, the opposite of squaring a number, as we saw earlier, is square rooting. So if I take the square root of that number, r is going to be approximately 2.26 feet. Now let's do some volume. So to find the volume of a cube, well, I know all these faces are just squares. So if that's 6, this must be 6, that must be 6. And volume is always length times width times height. But if the length and width and height are all the same, well, it's just going to be whatever that side length is, cubed. That's why we call it a cubed number. So 6 cubed. Well, we will, to find the volume of the cube, we will cube its side length. Cube its side length. So 6 cubed is going to be the area here, or not area, the volume. So the volume would be 216 units cubed. Why don't you guys pause the video here, try this next one. Make sure you've got a calculator, or you can use one on your phone or computer or tablet or whatever you're working with. So here again, we've got 5.5, and to find the volume of a cube, we cube the number, and we get 166.375. Or if you really want to, you could round that 7 up, 166.38 cubic units. Now, what's the opposite of cubing a number? Instead of giving you the side length and asking you to find the volume, I'm going to give you the volume and ask you to find the side length. So what's the opposite of cubing a number like we just did? Well, the opposite of cubing a number is cube rooting. And then if you think about the exponent form, the opposite of r to the 3 over 1, the opposite of that would be r to the 1/3. And r to the 1/3 is, of course, the cube root of r. So now, given the volume, we got to find the side length. So we'll take the volume equals r cubed or s cubed or whatever variable you want to use. And we just said that the opposite of cubing a number is cube rooting. So let's take the cube root of 100. And we'll say that side length equals, so each side is going to be equal to approximately 4.64 units. Now, why don't you pause the video here and try this next problem. All right, so volume equals 729 equals whatever that side length cubed is. And I want to get the s by itself. So what's the opposite of cubing a number? How do I get rid of cubing a number? Well, I can take the cube root. And this is a nice problem here because 729 is a perfect cube. So 9 is going to be each side length, or 9 units. And now let's recall our volume of a sphere formula. We had volume equals 4/3 times pi times r cubed now, because we're doing volume. So if I'm giving you a radius, where in the world would I substitute this radius length in my equation? Where's that radius length going to go? Well, radius is going to go in for r. So let's take our volume here is going to be 4/3 times pi times 5 cubed. R is 5. So I want you guys to finish this first problem and try, oh, that's strange. Here's my typo for the day. I want you to finish this first problem and try finding the volume for the second sphere there. So let's see, 4/3 times pi times 5 cubed. So this volume would be 523 33.6 cubic inches. All right, let's try the same thing here. So volume is, 4/3 pi r cubed. Well, what am I given here? I'm given radius, and where is that radius going to go into my equation? Well, it's not going to go in for volume. It's not the volume. It's the radius. So let's substitute that value in there, and we can type that into our calculators. 4/3 times pi times r cubed gets me 33.51 cubic centimeters. Sorry about that. Just getting some text messages. So now we're going to go the opposite direction, in a sense. I'm not giving you the radius anymore. I'm giving you the volume, but we're going to use the same formula. Volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. But now I'm giving you the volume. So where am I going to substitute the volume in? Where's this volume going to go in my equation? Well, it should probably go for my volume. I'll substitute the volume in where the volume should go. Let's do some Bears colors. So 350 equals 4/3 times pi times r cubed. Now I want to solve for r cubed. That's what I'm trying to solve for. And let's think back to, where is it? Here. What did we do first? When I had pi r squared, what did I do first? Well, I divided off pi first. So we'll do the same thing. Let's divide off pi first. So let's get rid of that pi. These pi's will reduce. This will cancel. So 350 divided by pi. So I've got 111.41 equals 4/3 r cubed. And let's go back and think about, what was our first step? Divide by pi. Now I'm still trying to get this r cubed by itself, so what do I need to get rid of? What is on the same side of the equal sign as r cubed that needs to go away? Well, this 4/3 needs to go away. What's the opposite of multiplying by 4/3? Well, I could divide by 4/3. Or what's the opposite of 4/3? I could multiply by 3/4. So you could either multiply by 3/4 or divide by 4/3. You'll get the same thing. So those reduce, divide by 4/3 or multiply by 3/4. So I've got 83.56 equals r cubed. Now, what is the opposite of cubing a number? How do I get rid of a cube? Well, the opposite of cubing is cube rooting. I take the cube root, then r equals 4.37 inches, approximately. So let's go back through our steps here. We divided by pi. That was the first thing we did. I don't like that. Divide by pi, and then we divided by four-thirds, which is the same thing as multiplying by 3/4. And then last but not least, rather, 3, we took the cube root. So let's set up our first step here, and then I want you guys to try these last 3 steps on your own. When our radius, oh, that's a typo. Oh, happy Friday. That should say volume. Volume equals 90 centimeters cubed. It doesn't make much sense that a radius would be a cubed value. So volume is 90 centimeters cubed. Volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. 4/3 pi r cubed. And where am I going to substitute in the volume? Where does the volume go in this equation? Well, it goes in for V. So 90 equals 4/3 pi r cubed. Now follow your 3 steps. First divide by pi, then divide by 4/3, then take your cube root. Please pause the video now and try this out. See how it goes. So again, pause the video, try those steps, and then come back to us and let's see how it went. Well, if I divide by pi on both sides, 90 divided by pi, I get 28.65 equals 4/3 r cubed. So now what do I need to get rid of? What's on the same side of the equal sign as r cubed that needs to go away? Well, that would be our 4/3. So I can get rid of that 4/3 by dividing by 4/3, which is the same thing, of course, as multiplying by 3/4. Let's use red. So now I've got 21.49 equals r cubed. In our very last step, what is the opposite of cubing a number? Well, the opposite of cubing a number is, of course, cube rooting. So if we take the cube root, 2.78 centimeters is going to be that radius. All right, enjoy.